Hi, this is Jim from Safety Wars. Before we start the program, I want to make sure everyone understands that we often talk about OSHA and EPA citations, along with some other regulatory actions from other agencies, legal cases, and criminal activity. Everyone is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Proposed fines are exactly that, and they are often litigated, reduced, or vacated. We use available public records, news accounts, and press releases. We cannot warranty or guarantee the details of any of the stories we share, since we are not directly involved with these stories. At least not most of the time. Enjoy the show.
This show is brought to you by Safety FM.
Hello. It's Safety Wars for Wednesday, August 19th. Computer issues. I don't know what's going on. I do know I fixed it, but I don't get it. Right? So tonight, you will be getting two programs on the podcast side. This is the live radio side on Safety FM. I'm your host, Jim Polzel. So let me start out with some business. I want you to go tomorrow or tonight, whenever you're hearing this. Disaster Preparation Month, National Disaster Preparation Month. It's coming up in a couple of weeks, September 1st. So this is what I'm going to ask you to do. Send me your suggestions, topics you want to discuss. Maybe you want to be on the show. You could do that too. All about prepping for disasters here. Number one. Number two. We have new viewers out there, new listeners, and everything else. What is Safety Wars? It's changed over the years. We used to do, like, if you look back and they're still out there, they're like 10 to 15 minute shows. I discuss one topic. Sometimes I replay them if I still think they're good here and it's still relevant. I'll put them up there. Eventually it came into like a news program, then it came into a commentary program, plus the news. We concentrate on safety and environmental issues. Now that we're getting into election season, we'll talk more about politics. You'll be forewarned. I do put up political programs on other platforms like Rumble. Rumble is one where we talk politics. Why do I do that? Because other platforms don't want us talking politics. And then, Safety FM is okay with whatever I do, but I try not to talk about politics here without a fair warning. Now, what else we got? I poke fun, right, at things all the time. So, for example, we have ancient safety professionals. Where we go into making fun of the safety industry. Because we gotta have something to laugh about. There's a lot to laugh about, and it's told from the point of view of somebody in the year 3000. They're looking back and they're trying to find out what this ancient culture called the safety culture. Sometimes they mix it up, sometimes they don't. So we will be playing that a little bit later on, and we tell you things. Right. It's tomorrow's safety day. What the trends are, what questions to ask. Last night we talked about difficult people, basically. And I had somebody call me up about the program. They said, well, maybe you have to explain a little bit more. If you have a difficult person, right, unless everybody is in on the person being difficult, meaning everyone knows how difficult the person is. If if they meet the pattern of a psychopath, again, I'm not making a clinical diagnosis, that is a clinical diagnosis, but there are leading indicators for psychopathy out there. Hare's checklist of psychopathic indicators is one of them. And you get belligerent people, especially during the safety meetings, anything like that. That has to be handled right then and there. Otherwise, it's going to make your life a lot more difficult. Well, what do you mean, Jim? More difficult? So we recently had a situation where we had somebody, we were giving a training class, and we were, hold on. I beg your pardon for 1 second here. Hang on. Still allergy season here, and I just cut the grass, right? And anyway, we had a difficult person who tried to make. No, this is not the first time this has happened. Tried to interrupt the safety meeting, tried to throw you off, tried to do whatever. You have to have something ready to go ahead of time. You have to have a scripted comment in your head, what have you, on how to handle this. Right? You can make a joke out of it. You could get nasty about it. You can do whatever. But however you handle it, and I want you to handle it professionally, legally, right? Not necessarily run to HR on this, because certain things involve not appropriate in the workplace, inappropriate to talk to HR about it. And what do you end up doing is you handle it right then and there, or immediately after the incident happens. If you let it fester, everyone's going to be like, oh, well, nothing bothers him, or, hey, we could get away with saying anything to that person, doing anything. Right? So, pithy comments, professional, of course, what's legal. One of the, I talked about somebody not liking an industry standard that we were by contract required to do, and for a safety type thing. And I said, well, look, now, and this actually happened. I found everybody who made that decision for that standard. I was like 25 people on the committee, something like that, over 20. We addressed a letter to all of them and had this guy's name who was complaining at the bottom. I said, I'll pay for the postage. You sign the letters. Those are the people you need to talk to. That's the organization you need to get involved in. That's the committee you need to get involved. And they're having a meeting next year on this. Maybe you could get involved because you seem to be very passionate about this issue, and you're obviously much more knowledgeable than everybody else here on this. And here you go. Oh, and they're like, well, what? This is nuts. I said, well, this is what you're asking me to do. You want me to go up there, use the Safety Wars platform to make the workplace less safe? Well, if that's what you want to do, then would you do it? Real simple. You got to do it. And everybody was snickering and everything. And, oh, well, I'm not doing it. Okay, well, then please don't shout at me in a room with 30 people saying that I should be doing something like I'm not doing my job. The way it is, or my people are not doing their jobs. It's the way it has to be. Well, what happened is this. You're thinking, well, Jim, you're running the risk with the client doing that. Oftentimes, people hire Safety Wars because they have problem individuals that they need managed. And unfortunately, they don't want to manage them for whatever reason. Sometimes it's nepotism. Sometimes it's friends hiring friends. It could be any host of, hey, look, he's a project manager. We can't get rid of him or her. This is the way they are. And what do we do? Oh, well, Jim, can you manage this person? Can you get us to where we need to go safety-wise? Because we can't really get rid of this guy. Usually it's a guy. Sometimes it's a woman. And we can't get rid of this person. We can't do that. Well, guess what? That's what we're there for. You want us to manage things? We'll manage things with that. No, it's not that I'm a hatchet person. We're not. We want much rather have everybody work and get along with each other and everything else. But what's my point here? One, any negative situation should be handled immediately, or it should be handled in a professional manner, and it has to be handled right then and there, because people who are belligerent or who may be a psychopath, they only respond to immediate feedback. Number one. Number two is don't ever be intimidated by these folks. Item number two. And item number three is you're sometimes hired, especially if you're a consultant, to manage difficult people There's nothing wrong with that. That's what we specialize in, managing difficult people and situations. When there's a problem, we're like the A-team. If you can find us, and we're pretty easy to find, safetywars.com, 845-269-5772. Right, we're easy to find if you find us, and we'll be direct. We're not going to be in disguise here, right? Like Hannibal Lecter in Hamilton Smith. Hannibal Lecter is the other guy. Hamilton Smith, played by George Paport. We're not going to be in disguise. We're right here. We're right out front. That's what you hire when you hire us. And the thing is, part of this is, right, safety wars. It is what it is. Safety or death. We don't do our job, people get hurt, people get killed. We don't set up a reliable system, people get hurt, people get killed. And on top of that, it's going to, you have who's left, the families. And somewhere down the line, hopefully way down the line, is that there's a financial aspect and a moral hazard aspect to this whole thing. So that's what I'm going to do. We're going to head on over to FSN Radio News. And here is, I don't know, it's a lot of news today.
Examining potential strikes against American military assets in southeastern Europe.
Let's start that over again.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper. It's being reported that Iran has been examining potential strikes against American military assets in southeastern Europe, should US President Donald Trump escalate the war. The report from the Financial Times comes as Iran's armed forces have warned the Gulf states that assisting the US military could amount to participating in operations against Iran. FSN's James Goodison has more from Washington.
These reports initially surfaced in the Financial Times, which spoke to insiders from Iran who said that two of the possible options were a base in Bulgaria, which isn't a US base but was used by US forces as part of their attacks on Iran, and separately the British RAF base in Cyprus, RAF Akrotiri, which was hit by a drone believed to have been fired by one of Iran's proxies during the conflict as well. This just gives a sense from Iran's point of view that they are doubling down, that they aren't willing to come to the table to make concessions.
Harry and Meghan, the British Duke and Duchess of Sussex, are reportedly leaving California and returning to the UK. That return is scheduled for the end of this month, 6 years after they quit the royal family and moved to the US. They're expected to live in a non-royal residence, continue their business ventures, and not take up official royal engagements. A former engineering director at Meta, the parent company of Instagram and Facebook, has claimed that child safety was not as important to the company as user engagement. Meta's on trial in California over allegations that it designed its platforms to hook users, that it misled the public about their safety, and that it collected data from children without parental consent. The company denies all the allegations against it. Healthcare companies Moderna and Merck have announced the first ever positive phase 3 results for a personalised cancer vaccine. It's been testing the vaccine on melanoma patients. The breakthrough sent both companies' share prices soaring. Merck finished the day up 12%, Moderna up 177%. Moderna's president has said thousands of patients could benefit as soon as next year. FSN's Mitch McCann has more from New York.
This signals a rapid turnaround for Moderna, it has to be said. The company performed very well during the COVID-19 pandemic as it moved to create a vaccine for the virus, but since then its stock has mostly fallen. So this really represents what could be an optimistic future ahead. Now these studies are going to continue before the companies decide whether or not to apply for regulatory approval in the United States as part of making this therapy more widely available. So I think that's something that investors will be betting on as well, that this drug becomes more widely available in the next few years, and then those stock prices will probably rise even higher than they have today.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today, what's behind Russia's threats to the UK that it could face consequences for supplying drones to Ukraine that have been used in long-range attacks against Russian territory. The Russian embassy in London accused Prime Minister Andy Burnham's government of acting as an accomplice and co-perpetrator of bloody crimes and terrorist attacks. That's a reference to Ukraine's continuing and growing ability to strike at targets deep inside Russian territory military, including some even in Moscow. Christopher Steele is a former intelligence officer with the UK's MI6.
The Russian leadership's deliberately kept both the draft of soldiers and the war away from the major cities, Moscow and St. Petersburg. But the war, as you know, is now coming home big time to those cities and others. And indeed, the shortage of troops on the front line means that they may well have to conscript people from those cities as well. And I think overall, the war, which has now lasted longer than Russia's or the Soviet Union's participation in the Second World War, is having a pretty deleterious effect on the Russian leadership and its standing amongst its own people.
Earlier this week, Russia shot down 180 drones in the Moscow region on a single night. But one Ukrainian strike destroyed a warehouse operated by Wildberries, Russia's equivalent of Amazon. At least 3 people, including a 10-year-old girl, were reported to have died in that attack. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
And the main news again. It's being reported that Iran is examining potential strike options against US military assets in southeastern Europe if US President Donald Trump escalates the war. Harry and Meghan, the British Duke and Duchess of Sussex, are reportedly leaving California and returning to the UK. And a former engineering director at Meta has claimed that child safety was not as important to the company as user engagement. That's Feature Story News. Nick Harper reporting.
Thank you very much, Nick Harper. So let's go on back here. We're going to be covering the news, right? So last night we caught up on some of our ocean news, and we do all these other things out here, right? And then one day in politics. Pardon me, like I said, usually that hits on the weekend, and this is what it is. So here we have it's from NASA. So the DailyMail.com Science and Tech article. Doomed NASA Space Telescope set for uncontrolled fall to Earth after failed rescue mission. NASA called off the mission to save its dying space telescope on Wednesday, dooming it to a fiery re-entry later this year. The space agency spent $30 million in hopes of sending another spacecraft to push the Swift Observatory into a higher orbit and avoid an uncontrolled fall back to Earth. The exact date and location of entry are not yet known. The rescue spacecraft named Link went into an uncontrollable spin a few weeks after it's left off in January. And basically that's it. I mean, 30 million here, 30 million there. Sooner or later you're talking $40 trillion, which is the debt today. Official $40 trillion. Here we have something, and I had some experience with this because I was on a medication for a short time that gave me lucid dreams or vivid dreams. And I tell you what, I did not get a good night's sleep for the entire time I was on that medication. It was one of the reasons why I was removed from that medication under a doctor's supervision. So, vivid dreams, this is from earth.com. Vivid dreams may drain the brain's energy during sleep. During REM sleep, blood inflow increases while energy inside neurons drops, revealing a surprising paradox linked to vivid dreams. Some mornings you wake up from a vivid dream more tired than when you fell asleep. Yeah, I'll attest to that, yes. Sleep is supposed to leave you restored. New study of sleeping mice, you don't need sleeping mice, you just have me, you can ask here, reveals an unexpected energy drain during the stage of sleep most closely linked to vivid dreams. Researchers at Tohoku University in Sendai, Japan, watched what happened through the intact skulls of 15 living mice. While the animals streamed extra blood flowed into the brain, and energy inside the neurons fell. The team was led by Ko Matsui, a professor who heads the university's Super Network Brain Physiology laboratory, with the first author, Yasuku Tahahishi. Sleep may appear peaceful, but the brain is highly active, especially when dreaming. When we're intrigued by this paradox and wanted to look further into the scientific basis behind what dreaming why dreaming is somehow tiring. I tell you what, yeah. So my wife said to me, you taught like in a whole 8-hour refresher class. I said, really? Yeah, you were talking all different stuff, toxicology, decontamination, respirator use it was amazing. Maybe we should have just hit record and, that could have been your next podcast or something. Yeah, maybe. And, I knew, I'm like, man, no wonder why I'm waking up tired all the time. AI phobia is America's new consensus. Trump, and this is from archive.is, XQGKE. Almost like it's like those Japanese names I was just reading, right? Stop us before we end humanity. And this is an article by Edward Luce. The AI titans keep telling us. Also, trust me and me alone, not my competitors. Whether it's Meta's Mark Zuckerberg, OpenAI's Sam Altman, or xAI's Elon Musk, or even our Anthropic's Dario Amodei, America's tech I never heard of this word, broligards, right, are their own worst alarmists. In the same breath as warning that humans are headed for evolutionary dustbin, they vowed to end diseases, abolish work, and fix global warming. Call it death cult utopianism. Americans are now increasingly, that's actually a pretty apt term there, cult utopianism. Americans are now increasingly focused on the death cult part. Yeah, we are. With that, it's our solution to everything is AI, but we're having people, as our next article is from Futurism.com, article by Frank Landymore. Teachers are warning that students are losing the ability to think as they lean on AI for everything. Yes, that's an issue. It's a tool. It's not a replacement. Remember, AI is a tool, not a replacement for your brain. With that, right? Students across the country are using AI models to complete assignments and write entire essays. Some of this constitutes cheating, but in many cases, schools are allowing students to make some use of AI tools. A platform today announced that there is going to be a teenage AI. And for teenagers between the ages of 13 and 17. This is a slippery slope, right? It's a slippery slope. As some experts argue, any intrusion of automation into the writing process isn't just threatening students' composition skills, but their entire ability to think, and I'm going to say to learn. And we fight that in the safety war all the time. Because we're going to be replaced. And I know people say, yeah, well, Jim, you know what job is going to be first to be replaced with all these AI models. I say, yeah, they're probably safety, one of the first, if not the first. One, because companies are saying, we could replace safety professionals with AI, and it's cheaper, and we get better answers. Maybe you get the answers you want. Ever think of that? You get that sometimes with safety professionals, but here, the stated purpose to get the answer you want. Writing the piece notes helps develop all sorts of cognitive difficulties, according to Ronald Kellogg, in a new essay, mulling the consequences of sidestepping the hard work of writing. Right? Writing the piece notes helps develop all sorts of cognitive faculties, including building our working memory, executive planning skills, our metacognition, or the ability to be aware of your own thinking. For all the romanticism around writing, it's also a form of drudgery. Kellogg says that drafting a basic essay is as mentally taxing as digging a ditch is physically exhausting. Oh, yeah, try to do live radio sometime, dude. You have to really rack your brain to find the right word and organize ideas in a way that makes sense to a broader audience. When they're manifested in the real world, you revise your ideas by going over them yourself or asking for feedback. Yes, with that. Writing, in other words, is inextricable from the labor that goes into it. So when you bring a piece of machinery that offers to do the process for you, it's no longer writing and by no extension no longer exercising the brain. An MIT study earlier this year found that people who used AI while they wrote an essay showed lower brain activity compared, what else? What else is new? Right? Moreover, the people who composed with AI struggled to remember a single line from the essays they just produced, with their brain activity staying at a reduced level even when they were later asked to write again without AI's help. So this is one of the ways that you could check people. Okay, this wasn't written by AI. Well, I tell you what was this about? Something to remember on that. This is from a Wall Street Journal Technology session today. An article by Isabel Simonetti and Meghan Bobrowski. Inside, actually from yesterday, inside big tech's frantic race to quell the growing backlash to AI. Tech companies are holding listening sessions, offering guaranteed jobs and writing big checks to win public support for the data centers that they need. Right now, I'm in the Northern Command of Safety Wars, and right about 10 miles away from here, there is, and if I get a chance, I'll run over there, proposed site for the data center. New York has just allegedly outlawed them after Governor Hochul was praising them about a month and a half ago. So they got to figure out what they want to do here. Are they good or are they bad? In July, about 1,000 Georgia residents gathered at the Effingham County College and Career Academy to hear about what OpenAI can do for them. A day earlier, the artificial intelligence company had announced plans to build a new data center in the area near Savannah. The event was billed as an open house where concerned locals can get their questions answered. Well, no, it works. They're going to get their answers questioned. Yes, always. On their way in, the attendees filed past protesters holding signs that read, "I didn't vote for AI. You can't drink data." Inside OpenAI's employees staffed booths offering information about the planned data center. There were QR codes linking a job board along with posters all over the place. Now, there was even a taco bar. Now, let me point out, if you're on LinkedIn, they've been advertising for jobs for this place. All over LinkedIn. Right, all over Indeed also. There is also a richer fare on offer. In an announcement project, the company pledged to invest $80 million in the community and provide as much as $71 million in coding credits to local students. Now, this is what I'm going to point out. There was a town in New Jersey, you might have heard of it, a little town, Atlantic City. And Atlantic City, back in '78, legalized gambling. And the first resort in Atlantic City to legalize gambling was ironically called Resorts, which was owned by Merv Griffin at the time. Now, what did we hear about this? And I went to college. Full disclosure here then it was Stockton State College. Now it's Richard Stockton College, University of New Jersey. Richard Stockton College in New Jersey. Why do they do that? Because when you say you went to Stockton, everyone thinks Stockton, California. They don't think Richard Stockton, who signed the Declaration of Independence, or anything else. But anyway, I digress, as usual. And we heard all this stuff. And I remember I was young, 7, 8-year-old. Oh, we're going to bring jobs to Atlantic City. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. What do you think happened? They ended up, and I remember all through the 80s and 90s, you'd go in to all these casinos. I frequented them when I was at college. And you would see, hi, I'm Jack Smith from Savannah, Georgia. I'm Jane Doe from Orlando, Florida. I'm this name from Alabama. And maybe you would get some locals in there. And what happened was the local community had a piss-poor education system. Now, what did those people get hired as? Are you going to trust them as a dealer? No. You ended up having to just hire the local population. You can look back. This is not Jimmy making this up. You can look back at all the old newspaper clippings and everything and commentary where you had the local people who were promised all this good stuff. What were they doing? Minimum wage, menial work. Oh, yeah. Those were the jobs. That was we're going to be saved by the casinos. We're going to be saved by look at all of the jobs that are coming in. They ended up bringing outside workforces, not the locals, outside people to come in. The local folks did not have the education to be a dealer, to be a gambler, yeah. To be a dealer, to be a manager, to be this, to be that. And oftentimes there are huge articles, I remember, in the Atlantic City Press where they had to, with high school diplomas, still teach remedial reading, remedial math, and everything else. I'm not saying this is going to happen here in this community outside of Savannah, but does that community have the skills necessary to work at an AI data center? Oh yeah, the children are going to work the AI. That's what everybody's going to do. Well, let's do a little research project here. What's the name of this town? Near Savannah, right? Effingham County, right? Now, let's look this up. We're going to do here. Effingham County vital statistics. Let's see what we got here. This is from Effingham County, Georgia, right? Let's see. Vital records in Effingham County. We have a government website here. Let's see what they give us. Birth and death. Okay, let's try this. Here. U.S. Census data. All right, so here we have your census data. And we're going to do a share screen here. This is the census.gov website. It is open source, non-copyrighted. So that is Effingham County right there with this. And, okay, here we go. Population, 64,769. Employment, 66.6%. That means that there's a 34%, 33.4% unemployment rate. Business and economy, total employer establishments, 987. The median, meaning there's the same number of people above and below this, the median income and poverty rate is 92,789 based on the 2024 American Community Survey one-year estimates. All right, here, education. 21.7% with a bachelor's degree or higher. That means that there are 78.3% are going to be high school diploma or lower with that. What is the population and the people here? Come on, guys. I got a 5G connection here. I should be going like a bat out of hell. All right, I should have prepped this ahead of time, but I start reading things and I have questions that come up. Right? So they're planning on all this stuff. Meta Platforms announced a $1 billion Future is for Everyone fund. If they're giving a $1 billion, that means that they plan on making a lot more than $1 billion. Right? And, all right, so here we go. Effingham County. So where is it? Most people are 40 to 44 years old. Right? That's the medium thing right here. Right, that's for male, and for female it's 2781. So we go all the way down here. How many people are in the upper retiree? So we're going to expect all these people at the top of the pyramid, right, from let's say 60 to 70 years old. You think you're going to retrain them in AI and coding and everything? Oh, well, Jim, we can invest in the future. Did you ask the children what their dreams were, if they really want to be coders, or do they want to be something else? Initially, you're going to have to bring in people from the outside to do this, just like in Atlantic City. And what well, think long term, Jim. Okay. Electronics accelerates at a fast rate, an exponential or geometric rate. That's what electronics and is a technology field. Are we going to wait 10 years for these 10 to 14-year-olds that we have here on the chart? Right? The 5,000 of them to mature and then go on? What, we're going to get bachelors to teach them how to do coding and everything else? Because I tell you what, there is an insurance thing here. Why do people hire? It's not like in the safety field where you're going to get a lot of these companies get any old schlub off the street to do safety. And, oh yeah, we'll send them a 30-hour course. And now they're going to be a safety expert writing safety plans in charge of tens of millions of dollars in liability. Companies do that. I worked with many companies that do this. When I worked for the larger general contractors or anything like that, oh yeah, who's your safety person? Oh, that guy over there. Well, who is he? He's so-and-so. Well, how old is he? 22 years old. He's on summer break. You have him doing, well, what's his background? Is he getting like a safety or environmental degree? Fire science? Chemistry? Something? Oh, psychology even. Because, safety is an open field. Oh, no. He's doing, and they mentioned something totally irrelevant to safety. And you talk to the person, it's like, well, what do you know? Oh, I don't know. They just told me out here, told them to make sure that they have hard hats and safety glasses on. And here, sign the paper. Like the Ancient Safety Wars, Safety Professionals video. Right? Episode 1. Here, sign the paper. The ritual of the sign-in sheet. That's all that they know. So, again, they're betting a lot of money. And guess what? We had Meta do $1 billion here. $1 billion with a B. $1 billion. Investing. And then, we're going to invest $80 million into the local community, another company. There are billions of dollars here. There's $80 million into this. Now, if I was a community, I'd probably end up taking the money. But don't tell us that these people are going to be working in your facility here, doing this and doing that. Because here's the other thing. AI is going to replace the coding. Every person I know who does coding, that's coding, C-O-D-I-N-G, coding, like computer coding. All right? Every person I know who does coding, what do they use? AI, which just cuts the workforce. We don't need to hire a human being. We can get AI to do this. So, again, part of the safety wars and the war out there for your safety, your war out there for your mental sanity, is to recognize these patterns and learn from the past. We have a friend of the program here, Dave H. I will mention his last name. Long-term friend. I know the guy for like 30 years. He was out of work. State of New Jersey and their workforce development program sent him and hundreds of other people into the market, thousands maybe, to learn whatever computer language. This was about 15 years ago. Learn this, learn that. Computers. Maybe it was 20 years ago. Blah, 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 blah. Learn this, learn that. What do you think happened? You had 300, 400 people a year graduating that program. Are there 300 or 400 tech jobs for entry-level people in the tech field in New Jersey? No. So what did they end up doing? Dave didn't do this, but half of these people, they worked in Wawa, Quick Check, Subway. Well, how come you're working here? I got to pay bills, dude. Well, didn't you just go to graduate this program, the workforce development? Yeah, but guess what? This is all I can do because there are no jobs. I did a presentation several weeks ago, early in the summer, to some college students, right? And these are college students or people going into college. What do you want to study? We want to be like you, Jim, and study environmental science and environmental policy. That's what we want to get into. Okay, great. How many schools in New Jersey graduate environmental degrees? How many? How many do you think? Come on. We'll I can list them out here from memory, most of them. We have 21 counties, 21 community colleges. Almost everyone that I know of each has some kind of environmental or fire science or something like that. They're graduating 10 to 20 people a year in the program. So now you're up to 400 plus people graduating every year with an associate's degree. I don't know how many colleges and universities have environmental programs or safety programs, but let's rattle off some of the more well-known. Where I went, Richard Stockton College in New Jersey. Where I went, New Jersey Institute of Technology. That's 2. Right, then they have a master's and a bachelor's program. I don't think Stockton has a master's program. You have Stevens. You have environmental science, environmental engineering, and NJIT has environmental engineering also. Now do you get the point? You have Rowan University, formerly known as Glassboro. That place. Trenton State College in New Jersey. You have any number of schools at the Kane University, the former NJCU EDU, which is now Kane University in Jersey City. You have all of these colleges, and you have Rutgers. You have Rutgers Newark. You have Cook College. You have regular old Rutgers. You have all... Come on! You're graduating 700, 800 people a year, probably, in these programs. Are there 700 or 800 environmental jobs on an entry level in these programs available in the state of New Jersey? And let's remember, that's every year. So what's your degree worth? You flooded the market. What's this going on here? All these tech jobs. Let's circle around. We're going to circle around. All these tech jobs. We're going to invest all this money. Are the jobs actually going to be there? Are you actually guaranteeing jobs and gainful employment? Nobody could guarantee that. But, we're going to guarantee employment. Really? We're going to guarantee all these benefits. Really? Ay. We're already at 41 minutes. What do you know? Okay. So we talked about that, right? We're all over the place. Now, and a related story here. Let me bring this up here for a second. I know I shouldn't do this. Okay, we're going to talk about flock cameras, right? Because I think there's one obvious point that was never brought up in any of this. Obvious. I think this is so obvious. I've been hearing about this for 2 weeks, and because of all these computer issues, I haven't been on the air, and different issues coming up. We're finishing a project, and we're starting a new one on Monday, right there. But anyway, inside of Canada, all this. Anyway, here we have from archive.ph, from Wired Magazine, and who wrote this? I don't know who wrote this, but let me just go down. It doesn't say who wrote this. It might be AI for all I know. With this. Okay, so the article is today. Flock, here it is. 2 people, and I apologize for the pronunciation, Dhruv Mehrotra and Del Cameron. Flock has a powerful new AI tool for police. We got its code. Flock surveillance cameras have already sparked outrage. Wired reconstructed its next-generation AI system already in use by some police to confirm it goes much further than tracking license plates. Now, in my town, in Rockland County, I was told that you cannot get into or out of Rockland County since right after 9/11 without your license plate being read. And I was always wondering, when I moved there, I had New Jersey plates. I was getting followed around for like 2 weeks, and then they stopped following me around, they being the police. And they were like, oh, yeah, and I spoke to a police officer. Oh, no, we know. Let's see, we got to know you, Jim. You're good. You belong here. Okay, we ran your plates. You live right over here, blah, blah, blah. Okay, great. We had a shooting in Rockland County, a home invasion for a Airbnb, where a alleged gang member rented out an Airbnb, and he was pursued by another who found out where they were. They had a shootout. This was in front of one of my daughter's best friends, on her cul-de-sac. They had the shootout out there. It's pretty exciting there. But anyway, I'm a little bit familiar with this. So vehicle surveillance giant Flock Safety has told the public for years that its technology cannot recognize, identify, or track individuals, and now has a built-in system, according to Wired, that does both. An artificial intelligence tool for police that can identify drivers and track vehicles by their patterns and of movement alone. Right? Again, everybody has this. No, they hear me coming a mile away with the way I walk, talk, and the way my feet hit. So why is this unreasonable to expect that? Drawing on a network of cameras that logs the movements of drivers in more than 6,000 communities, the tool can pick out potential witnesses by how often their cars pass through a neighborhood, or surface a driver's associates from the cameras that they pass together, because the system also reaches police case files, 9/11 dispatch logs, etc. It's a rather lengthy list. The software, originally called Night Shift and more than recently named OS Investigative, ships with 69 pre-written prompts. And this goes on and on and on. I mean, we have protests, we have people ripping them down. The flock cameras, they don't want to become a dystopian state like some areas of Great Britain have been accused of being, with always being on surveillance cameras. And here you have another article here from TechSpot about police drones doing the same thing from flock cameras. Now, what's my solution to this? I've spoken to some public safety people here in the last couple of weeks, and they say, look, this is what I heard, and they are well-known public safety people from places that you've heard of, all right? Retired. And they said, look, we have these cameras all over the place, and what they're useful for is at an intersection with the traffic cameras in case there's an accident. And also, they said, we've picked up a lot of people that with outstanding warrants and stuff based on these cameras. So are they used as we don't want criminals, and we want to be for safety issues with traffic. I get it. But there's also been reports that police abuse this. Now, there's the old axiom in safety. If it gets measured, it gets manipulated. Here we are generating data. Do you think that data can be manipulated and misused? Absolutely. So we have the Uniform Crime Victim Survey that comes out, and it comes out all the time. Sometimes international about crime victim tracking this stuff. How much is that as self-serving? As Curtis Lee said during his campaign for mayor of New York, he said, what's happening is you'll get a robber, a bad guy, attacking a victim. The victim goes to press charges against the bad guy. And the bad guy says, what do you mean? I beat him up and he started. I'm filing charges on that person. So guess what happens? It's no longer counted as a crime. So it's manipulated. It's not counted as a crime if it ain't prosecuted. It isn't reported as a crime if it ain't reported as a crime. If someone doesn't make a report right there in the field. So all of this crime data is manipulated. Yeah, I have to hear all the time, every time, our crime is down in our country historically. Maybe the criminals are becoming a little bit smarter. Did you think that? How about in your workplace? You think people get very sophisticated at hiding statistics, don't they? You don't think that the police do that or other law enforcement? I'm not, right? They're human beings. Human beings are going to do what human beings are going to do. Now, here's my suggestion with all this stuff. Why don't you give, if they're so useful, why don't you give the general public complete unfettered access, maybe the same level of access that police officers have to the data that's collected on those cameras? Think about it. Right? What do you think they're going to do? What do you think they're going to do? No, that's crazy. You're going to be spying on the police. You're going to be using it for this, that, all these other nefarious reasons. Not good, up to no good, the whole 9 yards. Okay, well, now switch the argument around. If you're in public safety, or you're a town councilwoman, or a police officer, police chief, and that's your response, just turn it around. That's how the public feels. Right? It's not a superpower. People call it a superpower, where, look at from the other person's point of view. In the HOP World Human Organizational Performance, we say context drives behavior. Look at it from the other person's point of view, all this stuff. And if you could do that, maybe then we'll get to where we need to get going here in our society, and maybe bring the temperature down a little bit. Just see it from other people's point of view. Well, Jim, why do you say that? That sounds nutty. One of the advantages about doing this many years is this. And especially if you're in Gen X, like I am. Gen Xers were in a transition period. When we were born, computers were just being, it was something of sci-fi. It was a little bit sci-fi-ish, right? My uncle Ziggy, right? And you remember the Ballad of Ziggy and Helena, right? Turkey Takes Flight. Last year, we wrote the song based on a true story. I have a picture of Uncle Ziggy sitting 15 foot away on his birthday a number of years ago. 30 years ago, right? I treasure the photo. Uncle Ziggy was a war hero. We covered him here on Polish Heroes. Anyway, Uncle Ziggy worked on one of the first computers in New York City. He was the janitor that cleaned the room where the first computer was over there. It was like 3,000 square feet. All right. I had another family member who I can't talk about. He's still alive, who worked and was doing highly classified work with computers back in the early 1970s here. So this was all highly classified. These computers, the computing power of this thing here, I'm holding my iPhone, very, very, the computing power was, not much compared to what we have today. All right, where am I going with this? Eventually, where was I going with this? So we started out with computers like that, the size of houses. Now look at what we have is this. One of my first recollections of a computer was on an old fax system that somebody was showing me in I believe it was Social Security or DMV office in about 73, 74 in Perth Amboy, New Jersey. We came from that, and they came with paper and pencil, an old manual typewriter. Then it was, hey, if you had electric, you were high class. Then it went into word processing back in the 80s, where you got a word processor and you went one line and you like, okay, we're going to word process this one line, and then we're going to approve it, and it's going to print it out on paper. And then we went into computers and everything else. And with this whole revolution, all this crap that we're involved in right now. Now, in the workplace, we went from this too. We still have people practicing. Safety a lot of times hasn't been updated. But in the safety world, we went to, we're going to do drug testing. We say, well, okay, how do you link the two, drug testing and this and all this other stuff? Guess who did not get the drug tests? Any idea who didn't get drug tested at most companies? I'll give you 10 seconds. Who do you think did not get drug tested? I worked at 5 organizations, and this is what the truth was. The people who did not get drug tested was management, was only the workers. So you would go, and I remember in the 90s, right before they had drug testing, and a lot of things, 20 years old, you go out on a night on the town, you go out there, they're in Hoboken, New Jersey, teachers, professionals, doctors, people in medicals, you name it, nurses. They're out there doing lines of cocaine in the back room. Right? You got these construction companies. Yeah, they're doing lines of cocaine. They're doing marijuana. They're doing everything. And then they come in on Monday morning. Okay, guys, we're going to have a drug test for everybody. John Smith, Jack Doe, these folks, you. Okay, we randomized this. They were in the randomization pool. Oh, yeah. Abuse like that. Then it came into background checks. Some organizations. I know organizations that when they move to the TWIC card, Transportation Worker Identification Credential, I know organizations that almost had to shut down because of it. Why? Because the watchers did whatever the hell they wanted, and the peons are the ones who had that got penalized, right? With everything. I got managed. I had to pay the price for all these things. It wasn't until 30 years later that now everybody does drug testing at reputable companies, even though I do know otherwise with some things. So, getting back to the flock cameras, how do we relate this all with the flock cameras? Real simple. They're watching us. We should be able to watch them. I even pointed that out. Oh, well, we can't have management do that. Well, why not? So I think that the suggestion has to be out there that if we are being surveilled, we should be able to surveil the surveillors on this. Don't set up a system, a civilian complaint review. Don't do that. Just release the data. And guess what happens? Or maybe have the same controls that the watchers have. And then they say, well, that's stupid. Well, why is that? Again, it's a two-way street here. Well, I'm all for an open society. Let's make it an open society. That's what we're going to have to do there. Yeah, that happens. I mean, it's horrible. Now, let's close out on this. We're coming up to 57 minutes after the hour. Oh, this is the gift that keeps on giving. Is Dr. David Morenz, a former aide to Dr. Anthony Fauci, admitted to violating federal law that prohibits conspiring to defraud the federal government. They pleaded guilty to one count in exchange for prosecutors dropping of 4 other charges, right? So he used his own personal account for COVID-related stuff here as some type of, so to keep it out of the hands of, for discovery was what he thought, apparently, with that. And again, I don't know, with that. It goes deep. Again, Fauci's not being held responsible. Here's from the Epoch Times. Former Fauci aide pleads guilty to federal crime. Conspiring to destroy public records after emails he sent, including talking about having deleted missives. Right, which pleaded guilty to conspiracy. Again, he admitted to conspiring with others to hide from public view various federal records related to this significant historical event. What are they hiding? Right, and you ask, well, is this stuff still relevant? Oh, yeah, it's still relevant, apparently. With that, we have a new nominee for the FDA, Food and Drug Administration, Dr. Heidi Overton. Right? With that, President Donald Trump on Wednesday nominated White House Health Policy Advisor Dr. Heidi Overton serve as commissioner of the FDA. Trump called her a rock star. She will work on his administration's health agenda with Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services Administrator Dr. Mehmet Oz. We need her leadership at the FDA now to ensure that the U.S. remains a top world leader for scientific discovery and cures. And again, more that's safety news here. And top FDA official urged Fauci, NIH had to study, this is the predecessor, study problems after COVID vaccination. Shannon Woodcock, acting commissioner of the FDA, arrived, blah, 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 that's who it is. They should study health issues. This is in 2001. Apparently she was ignored. Why? Anyway, that's what I got, and I will talk to you tomorrow. For Safety Words and Safety FM, this is Jim Posel.
The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the host and its guest and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the company. Examples of analysis discussed within this podcast are only examples. They should not be utilized in the real world as the only solution available, as they are based only on very limited and dated open source information. Assumptions made within this analysis are not reflective of the position of the company. No part of this podcast may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means, mechanical, electronic, recording, or otherwise, without prior written permission of the creator of the podcast, Jay Allen.